to go back to your question about about God. So I what I heard from the question was, do you believe that there is a single path to God? Not, do you believe that there is a single God? Those are, or that there is only God, right? Those are two
I think they're intertwined.
Those are totally different questions for me, that every person is on their own journey to get to what I would say is that there is only God, hands down. 100% there is only God. How people are going to get there, that's the joy and the journey of life.
It's the Bible that tells you, hey, follow this and you'll get to God. So if by us saying there's a million different ways to do it, then we're basically, your argument is then we basically don't have.
Substitutionary sacrifice makes sense because that's what was consistent with the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, is that things would actually have to have their blood shed, something would have to die in our place. And so I don't really understand how that system was replaced with prayer. That doesn't seem consistent with the character of Yahweh. What seems more consistent is that something, better yet, someone would have to die in the place of us, which we believe is Jesus Christ.
All right, so we're listening to and watching Christian women versus Jewish women have a conversation on the Dr. Daf show. Out to Dr. Daf for organizing these sort of conversations, because there's so many things on her show, on her YouTube channel. So I'd like to encourage you to check it out. But let's continue.
There is only one true path to God.
So what's so interesting to me is this conversation around salvation, because something I kind of continue to hear echoed is like, you guys will never reach perfection. Follow the 10 Commandments or even the Noahide laws, and you'll be a good person. But to me, that sounds like striving for perfection, because it's a lot of doing, it's a lot of ritual, it's a lot of trying to atone for your sin, it's a lot of trying to keep the 10 Commandments. And that's why to us, this concept of substitutionary sacrifice makes sense, because that's what was consistent with the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, is that things would actually have to have their blood shed, something would have to die in our place. And so I don't really understand how that system was replaced with prayer. That doesn't seem consistent with the character of Yahweh. What seems more consistent is that something, better yet, someone would have to die in the place of us, which we believe is Jesus Christ. And then also with the 10 Commandments, like you said, we don't keep them, we break them all the time. And primarily, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And so what I think is like disheartening is that you guys are pretty much unanimously saying that people can find multiple paths to God, yet that's so contrary to what the 10 Commandments say. So how can you be a practicing Jew and yet make room for other gods in your theology?
Those are two different statements.
So I think the thing that you're saying, you're asking for practicing Jews, that also will probably be argued here, because I am a Jew. I'm not practicing anything. I am a Jew because I'm culturally and bloodline Jewish, and in my ancestry is Jewish, and most of my family died in the Holocaust. So for me, it's my identity and the fabric of like, it makes me up as a human beyond just my faith. That's why I struggled so much with that question, does faith define? And so I think that's, for me, that's a distinction. I think if you had someone like, as she mentions, Orthodox here that really believed in following every aspect of the text, like I have so much respect for you guys having these texts memorized. Like I feel like I need to go start studying immediately. But I think that strengthens so much of your faith because you have the text. For me, it's not a matter of like whether the Bible is real or not real. I mean, it exists. It's been verified. Do I believe in everything in it? I don't know if I believe. For me, it's about interpretation, and I think that that's the part that is the difference. We don't look at it as like a manual or like this is 100% what happened. For us, it's a story, or at least for me and how I look at religion, it's a story that we interpret and hopefully can take good out of it. And that's where I think it's hard for us in this way to communicate as well, because you guys have, like, particularly like you three have been really like mentioning a lot of text, which I wish I could argue directly with that, but I can't because I don't have that same knowledge.
Yeah,
so
I know that there's an ethnic and religious distinction in Judaism. I guess I just don't understand how that happened, because it is an ethno-religion. Like when God established his covenant with Abraham, it was Abraham establishing a covenant with God. And so like at some point, for all people, so at some point in your history, like people began to disregard Yahweh. And so I guess I don't understand like why they're separate, how they became separate, or why there's no conviction over the fact that you're separated from your faith.
I can answer that.
sorry, go ahead.
Just, well, one, we've been around for so long. You know, even in the most basic way, there's been peer pressure when there was like the Greeks coming to the land of Israel, and you know, you start getting influence of like, oh, let me worship this God. And so, you know, if we were to start a week ago, we would obviously be very strong. But over the course of 6,000 years, people diverge, people get influenced by different
People
circumstances.
intermarry.
Yeah, and you know,
Sure. My family moved to America right before the Holocaust. So, you know, saw some sketchy signs and we're like,
Yeah.
we're out of here.
Yeah.
We were also killed everywhere
Right.
from the beginning of
So,
time. Like we're expelled from everywhere.
They moved to America and put a wreath on their door and got a Christmas tree. And that was survival and assimilation. And my parents married each other. My mom was raised conservative and kept kosher and was bat mitzvahed. And my dad, this is only funny to you guys, but says Baruch Atah Adonai. And, you know, it was approved by my mom's parents and okay. And then I am a product of those two people. And if you're asking where the distinction is, it's like, yeah, we've been around since the beginning of time, and some of it was purely safety. And I think a lot of the reason that my dad, you know, knows not one thing about Judaism was just his parents were in survival mode and they moved to America and they kind of, I don't know if they were intentionally hiding, but they were just like, yo, people really hate us, so we're going to put the wreath on the door and we're going to do Christmas and we're not going to have a bar mitzvah, but we're Jewish. And, you know, if Hitler came here today, we'd put that star on no matter what, because, you know, if you have one drop of Jewish blood, you're Jewish and you're yeah.
I'd love to flip the disheartening nature of, I actually think it's amazing that we're here and we are still Jewish and we are still so proud to be Jewish, and that you see such pluralism of like not even believing, like it's amazing. It could be so easy for you to say, I don't believe in God. I don't want to get myself busy with that. I don't want to take a life of experiencing anti-Semitism and experiencing these challenges and struggles, and the opposite happens. To go back to your question about about God. So I what I heard from the question was, do you believe that there is a single path to God? Not do you believe that there is a single God? Those are, or that there is only God, right? Those are two totally
intertwined.
those are totally different questions for me, that every person is on their own journey to get to what I would say is that there is only God, hands down. 100% there is only God. How people are going to get there, that's the joy and the journey of life.
But that's the distinction. For them, they're saying that
Wow, that's all right. This is interesting. Okay, so this is what Paul talks about in the book of Romans when he says, not every Jew is a Jew. Okay, not every Israelite is an Israelite. Okay, so this is a very typical example of that.
there's an actual rubric, like there's the Bible that tells you, hey, follow this and you'll get to God. So if by us saying there's a million different ways to do it, then we're basically, your argument is then we basically don't have.
You guys are ethnically Jewish, but not religiously Jewish.
So we are, but there are plenty of Orthodox people that will think differently.
For me, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
There's a Hebrew saying that's called dati lefi dati, which means religious in my opinion, and obviously it somewhat rhymes. And that is when you kind of decide like, I'm
Okay, so I don't think this is a fair question to these Jewish women because obviously they are not practicing Jewish. Okay, they are not Orthodox Jewish, so they won't be able to answer this question. And you can see clearly from all the answers that they've given, this is not a fair question to these Jewish women because they don't have a clue. They don't practice it. They don't know much of the quote unquote Old Testament scriptures. So this would not be a fair question. But I understand because this is an open dialogue between people to have a cordial, conversation about religion, about faith, about life in general.
You know, there's 613 mitzvahs and so many ways to live your Jewish life and practice it, whether it's ethnically or religiously. And for me, I know, like, I like celebrating Shabbat. I like kind of having that distinction of, like, this is a day of rest. This is a day of becoming with my community and lighting candles and doing that. And I like also doing Havdalah, which is something that I didn't do growing up as my family. That's something I grew up doing at sleepaway camp, and I liked it. And, you know, you kind of pick and choose. It's
Can you
kind
say
of your
what
own.
it is?
Havdalah means distinction. You celebrate it on Saturday. In Judaism, the days start the evening of when 3 stars come out. So when 3 stars come out on Saturday night, that means we are now entering the work week. And so we have different rituals of smelling spices, lighting candles, and drinking wine and singing songs and having that distinction. This was a holy day, and now we're going into what we call Yamei Chol, like sand days, regular days, unholy days. You kind of pick and choose, like, you know what? I like bacon. I like cheeseburgers. I love shrimp and calamari. I don't want to restrict myself doing that, and I like driving on Saturday. Other people, you know, they decide to do everything. You know, you kind of pick and choose, and I don't think I'm less Jewish than somebody who decides to cover their hair.
This is also sort of an American thing, right?
I
The
mean, no,
sex.
I grew up in Israel, born and raised. I came here for college. I think and that's something that I find like very interesting for me coming to diaspora, where in Israel you really take your Judaism as something not just for granted, but obvious. Like on holidays, the streets are shut down. There's no work. And whereas here, being in college, when I was in college, I really had to make an effort to be like, oh no, on Friday nights, this is what I do. Like don't mess with my schedule. This is a part of me. This is an integral part of my identity that I have to make an effort to make do. So yes, I'm ethnically Jewish. I don't consider myself religious, but the religion is part of who I am.
Yeah, I just want to add 2 things. I think, like, as the conversation that we're having gets, like, you know, as we're progressing, it's becoming, like, abundantly clear that, like, and maybe it's just me, that there really is, like, practicing Jews and then Jews as a culture. Yeah. And I think that, like, communication, but because we started off the conversation with us being so identified in our faith, I really do see that, like, disconnect that we're having right now. Like, we are defending our faith, and I think these questions are surrounding our faith, but there's clearly something lost in translation, right? And I think adding to that, I think a part of what I'm seeing as far as, like, the Jewish people as a whole, the kind of, like, rebellion against the culture in and of itself, I think is largely due to you guys not believing in Jesus and him, like, dying to fulfill the laws. And I think that's also what I'm seeing as you guys as a people.
There's a lesson to be learned here, because now I know now not every Jew is a practicing Jew. Okay, so now I know not every Jew is a practicing Jew. Not every Jew is a believing Jew. So we have a practicing Jew, and which is like Orthodox Jew, and we have an ethnic Jew. So this, I guess, it's a great conversation as well, and lesson learned here on this video. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.